Hi, everybody. Welcome to the August 24th, 2018 edition of Colorado Inside Out Postgame, a special web exclusive production here on Channel 12. I'm Dominic Dizzuti. Thank you very much for watching. Let's get a quick take on former Republican gubernatorial candidate Victor Mitchell coming out this week calling for President Trump to resign and claiming that current Republican nominee Walker Stapleton raised campaign funds illegally before he was officially a candidate. Natasha Gardner, articles editor of 5280. I guess my cynical point of view would say that this felt like sour grapes. It felt like there's a way that a former candidate can still get back in the press. You have to say something about Donald Trump. Did you see any substance in these complaints?
Wow. Okay. Yes and no. I would say that one of the things I find interesting in this modern political world as we go through these immense battles and primaries and then pretend like everything is perfectly happy afterwards. And this is a great moment to be reminded, like, no, these people were in a battle for a position, and there are probably hard feelings, and there are probably things that happened that both sides didn't like. And perhaps it's a good thing for our parties if there's more diversity in thought, that maybe we don't have to all agree in that moment heading up to the general election. So on the one hand, I kind of appreciated that, not just following the sort of status quo there. I think that with the question of whether Republicans are going to support Trump's actions or not going forward is the ultimate. I mean, I can imagine that for most interviews right now, that is the first question that they're getting from reporters. Where do you stand? And then drilling into that conversation. So Victor Mitchell, who is not obviously on the ballot right now, but coming out ahead of that and saying where he stands, I think sets an example that other Republicans could follow. Whether or not it has the national amplifications for it to catch on or not, that'll remains to be seen.
I absolutely love that you have the table of cynicism in Colorado Inside Out. You said maybe we can actually have diversity of thought within a political party. Wow, that is optimistic. That is awesome, Natasha. Krista Kafer, columnist of the Denver Post, also joins us. Krista, was it sour grapes? Was it a brave Republican shouting needed criticism? A little bit of both? What do you think?
A little bit of both. Okay, so taking a shot at your former competitor in a race, very much a sore loser kind of thing, and you risk branding yourself as the Mr. Sore Loser and never being able to run again. As for calling out President Trump, I'm sitting here thinking, if a president, it's revealed that he paid off two ex-mistresses, porn stars, or maybe it goes the other way, porn star ex-mistresses, with funds that probably should have been claimed as campaign finance contributions, and then lied about it repeatedly. 50 years ago, probably would have resigned. Now it's just sort of like par for the course with this president.
Eric Sonneman, political analyst. Does this go anywhere besides our quick little short take here? Is there any strength behind either claim about President Donald Trump needing to resign or Walker Stapleton's dark money?
Probably not, because it is, I mean, both Natasha and Krista said it was, yes, sour grapes, but yes, had a little meat to it, and I'll echo that with some different reasons. Clearly there's sour grapes. Clearly there's an attempt to stay relevant or stay in some kind of modified limelight or whatever after the cameras have long since left Victor Mitchell. Let's not forget that in the primary, Victor Mitchell could not get closer or could not try to get closer to Donald Trump. He was the chief Trumpian. He was critiquing Walker Stapleton for being a Bushy, for being insufficiently loyal to the Trump movement, everything else. So there's an irony about it now. I don't think that the idea of money, there's going to have to be some substantial there, which I haven't seen yet, for that to take off in terms of hurting Walker Stapleton. In terms of the comment about a Trump resignation, I take the source of that comment with a grain of salt, but what's the old line? Even a stuck clock is right twice a day. Krista's point about what might have happened in years past, although I certainly noticed that Richard Nixon only resigned when he knew there was no other viable path, and Bill Clinton, Lord knows, resisted that course and not only survived but thrived politically by doing so. And Donald Trump is in a whole different universe and has a whole different internal operating system. It's a discussion that should be had, should be had. But Donald Trump is not listening to Victor Mitchell, suffice to say.
I would definitely agree with that. Joey Bunch rounds out the panel, Deputy Managing Editor at Colorado Politics, also the Chief Correspondent, right? So, Joey, are we going to hear more about this? I guess when it comes to political fundraising, people kind of complaining one way about it. It feels that as soon as someone writes a campaign finance reform law, that as soon as the ink is dry, the map of how to get around it is concocted, and both parties use it to as much as they want to. This isn't a Republican issue or Democratic issue. Every party knows how to work around it. You know, do you see it as sour grapes? Do you see it actually gaining some momentum as an issue for the governor's race?
Well, you know, Eric is right. I mean, during the primary, Victor Mitchell was a Trump guy, but before he was a Trump guy, he was an anti-Trump guy. When he got in the race, one of the first things that he told me was that he didn't vote for Donald Trump. He voted for Evan McMullin. In fact, called me back to make sure that I didn't misunderstand that he voted for Hillary Clinton. But then during the primary, he embraced Trump. But what he really did was shine a light on that Walker Stapleton has just a very awkward relationship here. You know, on Tuesday when Trump was in, as we discussed earlier on the show, doing a rally, he mocked President George H.W. Walker Bush's 1,000 points of light. You know, Walker Stapleton should have stood up for his family at that moment. You know, Walker said that as far as Trump goes, Washington is Washington, but family is family. I think people would have understood that. So I think that Victor brought that to the fore. Now, as far as campaign finance goes, I say get rid of all the campaign finance laws. Let people donate as much as you want, but you've got to disclose it, and then we know where the money's coming from. It's not coming from dark shadows anymore.
Mm-hmm. I'll keep mentioning, I mentioned last week or the week before that, our audio engineer and sometimes co-producer Larry Patchett, they had a great idea years ago. You have to wear jackets like NASCAR folks do with the logos of who's sponsoring you, and then everything's out there beautiful. It's still a great idea, Larry.
That idea.
That's all the time we have for CIO Postgame this week. Leave us a comment, tell us what you think. For everyone here at CPT12.org, I'm Dominic Dezzutti. Thanks for watching.